Hey, what's going on, Big Fizz? I can't remember if it was my last video. I think my Washington video was the last one. Just before that, I did a little video on commitments and kind of staying true to your word and that type of stuff. And I showed you a little bit of my DIYs that I was doing around the house trying to get some honeydews caught up. And so I just wanted to kind of do a follow-up on that. And question number one, do you know what these are? That's the question. Because I didn't until this week. So now I have two. But it's just a funny story. I'm going to tell you a quick story and then we'll just kind of cut it at that. But so here's the deal. The faucet in the house that we had actually has one of the pull-out faucet, so the faucet comes out and then you can pull that out and then that becomes the sprayer, as opposed to, some faucets have a little sprayer separate on the side. Ours actually, the faucet pulls out and then that's the sprayer. That part broke. And when that broke, the sink was no longer operable. Luckily for us, we do have a reverse osmosis, which has its own faucet. And so, we've been able to just utilize that while we were dealing with this. But that handpiece broke in February. So it's now mid-August. I had to think about it. It's now mid-August. It's been a crazy year, right? But that broke in February. And so, I thought, I love the faucet. We've always liked it ever since we bought the house. We liked the faucet. So I didn't want to just go out and replace it, particularly if just that little handpiece is broken. So I thought, well, I wonder if you can buy a replacement handpiece. So I go to Home Depot, I'm poking around, and sure enough, they sell the same sink or the same faucet. So I asked the guy and he says, yeah, let me tell you what you do. Here's how you get that taken care of. Let me give you the model number. So he jots down the model number on a piece of paper, gives it to me, and he's like, so now just when you get home, you can just Google it, look up Pfister, that's the manufacturer, call them, tell them what the model number is. They can give you the part number for that handpiece. And then, once you have the part number, they'll tell you to just go Google it, and it'll bring up a list of, plumbing houses or whatever that will sell that replacement part. I'm like, cool. Yeah, that's cool. So boogie on home, look up Pfister, give them a call. And then, here's where the challenges start, right? Because right away, it's a problem because you're not talking to plumbers that are working the counter. It's, it's a call center in a foreign country. So, it's easy enough to figure that out. But, as you're working through the communication challenges with the language barrier, you start to pick up on that right away. But anyway, so I give the individual the model number, and he says he doesn't need the model number. What their procedure is take a photograph of the faucet, send me the picture of we'll send you a link. Give us your email. We'll send you a link, upload pictures of the faucet, and then within 48 hours, somebody from our team will reply back with the part number. Well, I already have the model number. Can I just give you the model number? No, we need you to upload photographs of it so that we can do that. And I'm like, okay. So I upload the photographs. 48 hours later, somebody replies back with an email that has a part number. Yay! So I jump online, hit the Google, and put in the part number, and lo and behold, the part number brings up the hose that runs from the faucet into the handpiece. I don't need the hose. The hose is perfectly fine. What I need is the handpiece. So, the time is way off. Anyway, I couldn't call back then, whatever. So a couple days later, I call, go through the whole process again. You can't reply to the email that they sent you because it's a do not reply, right? They're just sending you information through some automated system. So I got to call back, go through the whole process. I'm trying to explain to the person, look, I've already called. This is the information. This is the model number. This is the part number. This is everything that I have. The problem is they're giving me part number for the hose. I need the part number for the handset. Okay, great. Well, if you can upload the photographs when we send you the link, within 48 hours, somebody will call you back and then blah, blah, or email you with the information, yada, yada, yada. So 3 times I went through that over the course of, I don't know, several weeks. I got frustrated. I got sick and tired of it. So I went back to Home Depot. And so I'm looking and I'm like, did somebody not sell just a handpiece that I can just buy? And there's a guy there and he's like, yeah, well, you can look at those over there. We sell those. So I look at it and it's a cheap, crappy one. You know, I mean, you can tell it's brushed nickel. It looks like it's, you know, that's what we need is brushed nickel, but you know, it's plastic, it's cheap plastic. And I thought, well, I'm just going to buy that and use that until I can get this whole thing sorted out with Pfister. So I buy the cheap, crappy one for $6.99, come home and I'm like, woo, I'm going to throw this baby on, and the hose does not fit on the back end of that. So I'm like, well, I can get an adapter. So I go, you know, I'm back over at the Home Depot. I'm looking at, you know, for different fittings. The problem is if I put a fitting on there, then it doesn't suck back in and fit into the faucet the way that it's supposed to. So, you know, I got busy at work and everything happens. And, you know, so again, that was months ago. All that goes through at the wayside and I forget all about it. And, you know, the wife, you know, she comments on it from time to time, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get it. And I just keep bumping it to the back, you know, and I forget about it. And then again, you know, just recently some conversations came up about, you know, some obligations that I hadn't quite fulfilled. That was one of them. And that makes sense, right? I mean, 6 months with the faucet being broke, it's a little ridiculous. I get it. So it's time for me to get things taken care of. So now I have too many things going on. I'm not the smartest guy in the box, you know, smartest crayon on the box or whatever. But now I have way too many projects going on. So I'm trying to do this, travel for work and do the flooring and paint and, you know, all different kinds of good stuff. But anyway, so I'm trying to fix this. So I get back on this. I send Pfister another email and I make another phone call and go through all the garbage, and I get the same part numbers back that I got before, which was for the hose. So I started just calling some of these plumbing houses, trying to talk to them, and they're like, no, you have to call Pfister. So I just got frustrated, man. And again, I can't just leave this faucet broke. So I'm like, I'll just replace the hose, you know? So I look up online the manufacturer of the handset that I bought and find the compatible hose for that. So I run over to Home Depot because they sell it over there, and I'm like, sweet, perfect. Says right on there that matches the number. So I buy it. Come home, guess what? It matches one end. Now it matches the handpiece, but it doesn't match the end of the faucet. And there's no way to make, because it's a quick disconnect thing that comes on there, you have to use, it's proprietary. So I'm like, son of a gun. So I get back online, I start looking, do a little checking on Google, look at some different stuff. Multiple people are like, nope, don't use this one, which is the first one I bought. Use this one. So I'm like, sweet. So I exchanged the first one for the second hose, and I boogie on home, and this looks right. This looks right. Everything's going to be just right. And I'm like, sweet. So I get home and plug it all in, and this one doesn't work. And I'm like, what? How could this happen? So I'm back on the line, looking, and here's the thing. The hose kit that I bought has 10-piece kit and a 12-piece kit. I mean, keep in mind, I only need a hose and then 2 fittings. But I bought the 10-piece kit. I need the 12-piece kit. So I run back over to Home Depot. I refund that because they don't have the 12-piece kit. I shoot up to Lowe's, and Lowe's has the 12-piece kit. I even talked to the guy. I mean, this guy's been around for a while. I trust him. He knows what he's talking about, right? He's like, it's not this, it's that. Everybody gets confused and blah, 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 blah. So I'm golden. This guy is like, yep, this is what you need. You're all set. Sweet. So got it. I got this. So I leave Lowe's and I'm happy and I'm bebopping on home. My mood went from here to here, like in seconds. I mean, I'm just like, whew, finally, man, gonna get this knocked out. Everything's gonna be good. And then I'm like, so I get home, double check everything. It looks great. Even the wife's like, make sure the hose fits inside. And I'm like, yeah. Look, babe, it's the same size as the other hose. And she's like, make sure it fits inside. And I'm like, well, I can't make sure it fits inside because the old hose is there, right? I haven't taken the old faucet off yet. So I'm like, well, all right. So that's the deal. So everything looks good. The hose is the same size. I actually take the fitting and I'm like measuring it up. Everything looks good. Check the backside. Everything looks good. I'm like, sweet. So I turn all the water lines off. Well, before we still had water, we just turned it off to that one line. So now I turn everything off, start cutting hoses, whacking hoses, chop, 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 chop. And I get the new one and I feed it in and it goes 25% of the way in. Stop. What? Pull it out, stick it in. 25% of the way, stops. How? I mean, now, given the fittings are bigger than what was on the old hose, but I mean, it fit through the orifices. The hose is the same size. About 25% of the way in, that thing chokes down. In fact, if you go from the bottom up, which I checked, too small. Should have checked bottom up in the first place, like the wife told me to. But common sense says, right? I'm like, it goes in. I mean, it goes that far in. The hose is the same size. We're good to go. Nope. So, I don't know how many calls and emails into Pfister. I think this is now 4 or 5 trips over to Home Depot and Lowe's combined. 5-6 months into this project, and I'm livid, right? I'm just like, I just told the wife, I'm like, look, I know that you like the faucet, but at this point, just let's go to Home Depot, just pick a new freaking faucet. I mean, for what I'm spending on, all this crap, the handset, the cheap handset, the hoses and running back and forth and everything, it all costs money. I'm like, just pick a new faucet. I'm just going to take the faucet off and put the new faucet on. It was way easier. I mean, all of that work was just for the crappy piece anyway. So, who knows if I'm ever going to be able to find the right good one. So just pick a new faucet. I'm just going to take this one off and put the new one on. So we're at Home Depot. Of course, she doesn't like what they have at Home Depot. So then we go to Lowe's and then she finds one she likes. So we get that and I'm driving home and I'm just like, oh yeah, man, I can't wait. Well, wait, I already know. Now, I'm not a plumber, and I don't know jack about plumbing, and I'll be the first one to admit that I don't know jack about plumbing, but I know enough to ask. So I talked to a couple of guys that I work with that, are mechanical, work in that aspect of trade, and they're like, yeah, the easiest thing is just get a basin wrench. That's what you're going to want to take off the old faucet is a basin wrench. Because when you get up inside, up at the top there's one big old nut and you have to undo that big old nut and then everything comes off from there. Go to Harbor Freight. Go to Harbor Freight. They got them for super cheap. That's what I was told. I still ask the Lowe's guy, I'm like, hey, do you have a basin wrench? Those guys, there's no help. So we walk around. Oh, it's over there. It's over on out. If we had one, it's going to be on, so I'm walking from here to here to here to here, looking up, down, whatever, grab the next guy. Hey, this guy said it was over here. Well, if we had it, it's down there. I mean, it was worthless at Lowe's. So finally I'm like, screw it. Well, I already know that they have them at Harbor Freight. So check the time. Man, I got enough time. If I boogie down there right now, I can get to Harbor Freight and get it. So I go to Harbor Freight and, they didn't have anybody working on the floor, but the cashier was like, yeah, right over there, So I go over there and I look and bing, look what I see right away. She was right up on the top of the shelf, just like she said. My only concern was this looked mighty small compared to the size of the nut. Because I was smart enough, I took a picture of it while I was up underneath there so that when I'm looking for wrenches, I can find what I need. I was smart. I'm not saying I am smart because clearly by this point in this conversation, I've already proven that I'm not smart. But I was smart enough to take the picture. I'm looking at this. I'm like, it looks pretty small. So I asked the cashier, again, she's not on the floor. So in between customers, I'm like, is that the biggest basin wrench you have? And she's like, yeah, that's it. That's all I ever see anybody buy. So what do? I text the guy that told me to go there. And I'm like, hey, what size basin wrench did you get? And so he sends me a picture of it. It's the same one. 10 to 12 inch basin wrench. I'm like, he's like, that's all you should need. I'm like, cool. All right. So I go home and I'm ramped. I'm stoked. I'm in there. I'm like, yeah, baby, we're under here. All set. Cleaned everything out. I jump under there and it's too small. I tried and I tried and I tried and it fits around it. But the problem is the teeth. It's so wide open, the teeth don't ever touch the nut. So when you turn it, it just slides. And I'm like, oh, well, I've already been to Home Depot or Lowe's. I can't even remember which one. I've already been Home Depot. They didn't have it. Remember, I checked out 23, 42, 16, 15, 14, second level, top level over there. I've done that. I've been to Harbor Freight. All they had was the 10 to 12 inch. So I go across the street and I ask the neighbor, I'm like, hey, do you have anything, man? I don't know. He's a pretty handy guy. He's got old cars he restores and stuff, so he's got a lot of tools. I'm like, you got anything? So he gave me a couple things. So I go over there, come back. I'm like, well, we'll try this. So I spent another hour and a half under the sink trying this tool and that tool and all tools that aren't for that, and none of them work. I just can't get enough leverage on it to turn it. So I'm upset. I'm pissed off. I yell and swear and pout. And then a couple hours later, I'm like, let's go to Lowe's. Let's take a look. Well, I looked online at Lowe's and they had them online, but you know how that goes. Sometimes they say they have it, but you can buy it online, or maybe it's out of stock online. You never know till you go to click buy. But I'm like, anyway, Lowe's said they had one. So I boogie back up to Lowe's. What's that now? I lost count. Is that trip 6, 7, 8? I don't know. So I go back to Lowe's and ta-da! Lo and behold, the 12 to 16 incher, right where I was at in the first place. I should have just bought this when I was there 5 times before. I don't know how many times was it. I can't even recall. But anyway, they got it, right? And what I saw on YouTube is this one's better than that one because this one has a round shaft. This one has a squared shaft. Why? Because while you're underneath the sink, this one also telescopes, by the way. See? I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. And it has a square shaft, so you can put a crescent wrench on it to help apply torque while you're trying to loosen that crazy nut that has been driving you nuts. So I'm like, yeah. So I buy this baby and I cannot wait to get home. I mean, I was done an hour ago. I was done. I was spent. I was pissed off. I was hurting, laying underneath there with my hands above my head for 3 hours, laying on top of the cabinet thing. I've got a big old bruise right there now. I was done. But now I'm rejuvenated. I cannot wait to get home, dude. So I jump underneath there and I slap this bad boy on there and nothing. No. And I do it, and I'm like, what the hell? Well, the problem is you can't see what's going on clear up there because the basin dips. But what's happening is this thing, see how that baby falls down like that? The other one doesn't do that. The smaller one is really stiff. This little guy, see how loose that is? So the minute that I stick it up on there in the nut, it just, well now, when you got it around the nut, it's not getting the edge. So I'm trying and finally I get the wife under there, and so I'm literally holding this with one hand, and we're just the 4 of us, 4 hands, 2 of us under there. The dogs too, they're under there, and it's a disaster. I finally get that thing on there and I'm holding it, and the wife gets the crescent wrench on there, and we start torquing, and she's got a crescent wrench on there. I've got a crescent wrench down on this little guy, and we're torquing and twisting, and I guarantee you that sucker is on that nut. I guarantee you, and we are twisting and torquing and banging, and nothing. I can't break it free, man. Finally, I'm down there with a hammer, with the chisel. I'm beating the crap out of everything. I'm going back and forth to the neighbors. I'd try this, try that. The neighbor's like, he looks at it, he's like, I don't know, dude. Called a friend of mine. He's like, pull the sink out. I would just pull the sink out, and then, all you got to do is recalk it, reclip it, this, that. Pull the sink out, turn it upside down. You can put your legs into that, man. Pull the sink out. And I'm like, really? 6 months into this, 3 days now, torquing, twisting tool after tool after trip back and forth, and one stupid nut. I got a brand new faucet sitting over here on the counter, ready to go. And all it takes is this sucker right over there. And so my wife says, maybe we should have done the install. And I'm like, what? She says, yeah, right by where we bought the faucet, there was a sign that says, we do installation. She's like, I wonder, why don't you say something? So I call Lowe's and they're like, oh yeah, we do it for $99. Are you kidding me? I'm $65 in 3 days in sweat into this thing already. $99 is easy peasy, man. I'm refunding the tools because they suck. I did the install. The downside is like anything else. You know what I mean? You fill out the paperwork. They call you in 48 hours to schedule something. God knows what day they're actually going to come. And I don't care. I bought the faucet. I paid for the install. If they have to take the sink out, it says right in there that it's all inclusive. So I don't want to say I'm done because it's not done. And it ain't over till it's over. But man, does that feel good to not have that. So just in case you're wondering, the answer is basin wrench is the answer to the test. And back to everything that you and I have said, sometimes delegating is not a bad thing. I realize doing some things by yourself is good, you know, and it's good for a number of reasons, right? Particularly like you. I know I love it when you come down and we can work on some of these projects together, and it's a whole different story, you know. This whole stupid faucet thing is out of control, but that's different than working on a project like, you know, refinishing the benches or painting or, you know, the baseboards, that kind of stuff. You know, having a partner in crime there with you doing this stuff is totally different. You've got that camaraderie and you're laughing and joking and having a good time, and the trips back and forth to Home Depot aren't near as miserable. But this project, dude, I cannot wait for it to be done. So basin wrench and installation professional. Those are the words of the day. I love you, son, and I'm looking forward to talking to you later tonight. We'll see you, buddy. Bye.